Okay, let me get back to simple and complex ideas and the rest of this. Um, Look, I need to pause right here, and this is something that I don't think the professor that I posted the video, um, Professor Brown, explained very well. Um, for decades and decades in this period, the rationalists were on one side and the empiricists were on the other side. There was two schools of thought, and they were arguing with one another. The rationalists lost. There's probably a few rationalists around still today, but not really. The rationalists lost the argument. Ideas come from experience. Every knowledge, let's put it this way, knowledge comes from experience. Science is empirical science. I mean, come on. The rationalists lost the argument. All right. So the thing I want to emphasize about Locke that Professor Brown was not doing such a great job about, at least I didn't think so, is given that the empiricists won the argument, that means it's common sense for us now. I mean, rational, and by the way, ever wonder, does philosophy ever advance? Yes, it does. I mean, we know the empiricists are wrong, and the rationalists are wrong, and the empiricists are right. The empiricists want knowledge comes from experience. So it's not so much about whether or not knowledge comes from experience. That's something that maybe, don't focus so much on that question, because yes, it does. We figured that out. The big question, however, which is still lingering and is still a big question, is how? How does that come from experience? How do our experiences, the things we touch, taste, smell, see, and hear, how does that get translated into knowledge or even feel? Now, Locke tries to explain this, and that's where we are now with the simple and complex ideas. This is his explanation of how this happens. So let me restate that one more time. The question about, it's not whether or not we get knowledge from experience, but how do we get knowledge from experience? Is it this way? Is it what Locke says? We get simple ideas, we convert them into complex ideas. So, this is the questionable thing. I mean, it doesn't seem plausible. Just saying, doesn't seem plausible. The way Locke explains this does not seem plausible. But you know what? You can't fault him too much. He's making the first attempt ever in the world to do this, but it doesn't sound right. I mean, so we get simple ideas, one uniform appearance, like break down your experiences to the smallest detail. That would be a simple idea. One smell, one color, something like that. You add those all together, and then you get a complex idea. And the complex idea is basically, for Locke, object, a thing. So you see a clock or a stove or a table or something, and every element, the way it feels, the way it looks, those are all the simple ideas. You combine them all together, you get a complex idea. That's the idea of the thing. Is that how it works? We experience simple ideas and then we put them into complex ideas? That seems questionable. I mean, for one thing, when you walk into a room and you look around the room, you usually just pick out objects. You don't look at all the simple ideas. You're like, oh, there's a color. Oh, there's a smell or something. you're like, oh, there's a table, there's a person, there's a computer, there's a door, whatever. I mean, you pick out objects before you even pick out the details of the objects. Just saying, this does not, this seems a little bit questionable, especially the things he lists as simple ideas, which is what I'm about to get to here. The things he lists as simple ideas include things like solidity, extension. Extension is taking up space, but by the way, and figure, which is the shape of something, movement. These are the kinds of things he thinks are simple ideas. They don't seem very simple at all, like existence. These seem kind of complicated. They're not one uniform experience that you just get, you know. So note that about Locke. He's trying, but maybe not doing the best. Succession is time. In terms of ideas of reflection, pleasure and pain, he thinks are the key thing there. That's more plausible, but still, I don't know. Okay. Let me just talk a little bit about qualities. Okay, so this is a really big deal in Locke that people have been debating forever. The distinction between primary qualities and secondary qualities. For Locke, the primary qualities are extension, like I said, taking up space, figure, the shape of something, mobility, it moves. These are the primary qualities. The secondary qualities are the sounds and tastes and feels and smells and the things you get from your five senses. Now, the thing that's really kind of interesting about Locke is that he thinks that the secondary qualities depend on your mind and they're not really what the object is like. So the thing doesn't look the way, it doesn't actually look like it looks. It doesn't sound like it sounds. It doesn't smell like it smells. Those are just the way we experience them. There's a scientific point of view here a little bit, you know, because light is just waves of energy. Smell is just a chemical reaction, so is taste. That's the way we sense things aren't really the way they are. But the primary qualities, Locke suggests, are the way things are. So it really is taking up that space. It really is that shape. It really is moving around when it moves around. The primary qualities resemble the objects, but the secondary qualities do not. This is a big bone of contention, I guess, put it that way, because as the professor talks about Berkeley, which I usually talk about Berkeley too, Berkeley is like, how could you ever know something's solid if you can't see it or feel it? How could you ever tell something takes up space if you can't see it or feel it or has a shape? I mean, if you didn't have the secondary qualities, how could you even know the primary qualities even exist? But Locke thinks that the primary qualities resemble the objects. That's what Locke, they really are like that. The secondary qualities, not so much. Objects really don't have that color. They don't really have that smell. This also relates to the idea of what do we actually know about the universe and the world outside of us, because apparently for Locke, the only thing we really know is the primary qualities. Elsewhere, he says that substance is something that we don't know anything about. Something I know not what is what he says. And that means we don't know anything about the substance, so we only know the qualities of the substance. But the only qualities we know about the substance are the primary qualities, not the secondary qualities, which gives us a very limited understanding of the world. And this is why we come to this really kind of crazy thing. Empiricism is true. Like I said before, most people accept that empiricism is the right answer. Knowledge comes from experience. But it leads to skepticism. Because if empiricism is true, then the only thing we know about the world is what we sense. And how do we trust what we sense? We're always at a disconnect from the world, because the only way I experience the world is through it's always filtered. It's filtered through my touch, it's filtered through my sight, it's filtered through my ears. I don't know that objects are really the way that I think they are. Empiricism always leads to this threat of skepticism, and skepticism, we don't really know what the world is like. You will see this come through even more clearly. Well, first, if you look at Berkeley, but also with Hume. All right. I think I'm done talking for now. Personal identity is a very interesting idea in Locke, but I'm going to leave you on that, leave you to look at that yourself. Thank you.